The Oral History Project, an interview with Sister Sophia Moeller, December the 16th, 1980. Interviewer Clarice Weaver and Arlene Edwards.
Really was the center of this whole mountain mission.
Colorado was the center.
At the time, the schools were there, the medical center was there.
And
So-
you're as much as 15 miles away from there, so did it make a radius of 15 miles around Colorado?
And you go across the mountain, it's 15 miles. You go around the mountain, it's also 15 miles. But then the Colorado Valley itself is, I would say about 10 miles or more, the whole length of the valley. It's comparatively small
Right.
with ours. It's not as wide either,
When did they phase out the school at Colorado? Do you recall?
in 60.
In 60.
Well, they had high school. The idea of the school to start with was providing educational facilities, especially high school, and other for the mountain children from all around, including Watauga County, North Carolina, and whoever else comes across the line, or anybody want to come really. And free or otherwise, they worked part of the time, and they had a big garden, and they had all the rest of it, and the children did things. Now, in 60, I think it was 45 years that it was in existence. In 60, they had built roads, they had built high schools, and every child in the mountain could go to high school if they wanted to. So, and this has happened to all the mission schools.
Mm-hmm.
The Episcopalian, the Methodist, Presbyterian, they're all closed for the same reason. They either closed or change their program.
Mm-hmm.
What is that school down in Georgia?
I mean, I was thinking of the Presbyterian schools, Glade Valley, and over here at Oak Hill Oak Hill is still going as a...
It's still going, but it's a high-class academy.
Uh-huh.
It costs a fortune to get in there.
So
it's not a mountain school. It's not a mission school.
It's not a mission school.
But
Patterson School down in Wilkes would probably
Yeah,
be one of
that
those,
goes as
and
another
it's
one.
dwindling away at this point.
is that still a mission on the church?
I think so.
That might be. I don't know that much about it. I'm trying to think that, John, what's that school down there? It's a vocational sort of craft school now.
Penland.
Finland.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now,
Methodist, isn't it?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I wonder how many students could it take? Do you recall?
Well, for a while during the war, they had the whole school population in Conrock at the school.
Now, I have
They
been
were
to the
supposed to be
school, and I recall it being rather large.
Well, actually, they had, I think the limit was 45 students, the board. They had day students who came in walked in from there. But the boarding school, the boarding population, I think, was between 40 and 45.
Sister Sophia, I know the mountain people have been, we've been associated.
They'd be maligned. Yes, go ahead.
But, well, yes, maybe. But we've heard a lot about doctoring with herbs and that kind of thing. Did you run into an awful lot of that? What were some of the things that stands out in your mind as being unique?
Well, not so much. You use it in medicine now, in drugs now, except that they used it such as chamomile tea.
What was that?
Chamomile tea and wintergreen tea. What's that other stuff?
Catnip?
Catnip tea. And
Cherry bark.
cherry bark with honey, whiskey and honey. Pretty good stuff. Well, really, it's...
You didn't fight it then, did you?
Well, no, not some of the crazy things they did, such as put an axe under a bed to cut the pain and labor pain. That's something else again.
Oh, did
My
you?
husband told me to ask you about that.
Did they actually, they
Believe that.
put the axe under the bed to cut the labor pain?
Somebody said one of the things they did was to, in the later stage of labor, they put either snuff or pepper to make them sneeze. Well, that has a reason. I mean, that's logical, because that instead of they have to sneeze and they have to relax. I mean, it works. I mean, that's
Did you ever do it?
No, but they did it for me.
If it works so
I
well.
mean, if they want to do it, go ahead. It's not going to do any harm. So if they want to do it, let them do it.
A good sneeze
You
helped.
don't
didn't
fight. You don't fight things necessarily. If it doesn't do any harm, if it doesn't do any good, okay. But it doesn't do any harm. Why not let them give the satisfaction? Give them the satisfaction to do it.
Put their mind at ease too, didn't it? Do you think that's one reason you were so accepted, because you didn't go to change their way necessarily?
Unless
You
it
went to-
needed changing.
No,
such
you,
as-
or did you take the axe or leave the axe under the bed?
Yeah, sure. Leave the accent. Why not?
Bend in your arm.
I know one woman became very disturbed. I didn't think anything about it. I didn't deliver the baby. That was over in Colorado when Beulah Shoemate was still on. She was a trained midwife.
What was her name?
Beulah Shoemate
Beulah.
under WPA.
Mm-hmm.
And she delivered the baby, and I went to dress it. And at that time, we used to use oil or something to clean them up. Now you just leave it, because it's better for them, except their faces. And this woman got so furious because I dumped all this stuff like cotton things that I had used and put them in a fire. You're supposed to bury it.
Oh,
I didn't realize that.
that was part of the baby. Is that right?
I don't know. But she's, I asked the baby's mother after a while, maybe Beulah, why Isabel was mad at me. Was put out. I knew she was. I didn't know what about. And she told me that, she said that, here, I went and burned that. You went and burned that, and it's supposed to be buried. That nothing that touches a newborn baby should be burnt. That was her. I wouldn't have done it. I would have left it and buried it later. I burned it later, but it's just one of those things.
Have you kept track of your babies?
A good many of them are still here.
Mm-hmm.
Periodically, I run into West Jefferson. Hey, you delivered me, or you delivered my husband. And I, who are you?
How about the superstitions that prevail in this area?
I can't say that there are too different than I find them otherwise, such as mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Are you thinking of anything specific?
No, I was just wondering if that was, if there were any others that stand out in your mind.
Not really. Except, and I guess it's accepted that you plant certain things in signs of the moon. Get
Well,
those
that
in
works. You
Oh,
know.
no question. That's not
That's not superstition, that's
scientific.
facts.
You know, we seem to be going back to the good old days a little bit.
Well,
Have you
I
noticed that?
it's logical though. The moon is not the moon itself, but the phases of the moon, which are determined by the position of the Earth to the sun. It's bound to affects tides regularly.
Mm-hmm. So why not?
Yeah.
Clarice has been too polite. She has not asked you your age.
I'm going to be, if I live long enough, survive this winter, I'll be 77.
77.
I was 76 in May last year,
And what day?
6th of May.
So we'll remember Sister Sophie's made it another year. Now, I wanted to mention too, there seems to be, of course I know this territory pretty well myself, there seems to be a very high number of boys and girls that went into the medical profession. I know we have a couple of doctors, very fine doctors. I'm thinking of Dr. Powers and Dr. Weaver.
Dr. Weaver, who?
Kenneth. That was, now his relatives were over on this side, Violet Baldwin's, you know, the Baldwin's up at White Top. You forgot about Kenneth?
I forgot about him. I was thought about him the other day and wondered where he is. Maddie never talks about him.
Well, he's let's see, he was down North Carolina.
Is he a veterinarian? Is he
No, he's a general practitioner, I believe. And of course, his sister was a nurse, and there was so many boys and girls who did seem to head for the medical profession. Do you think you inspired some of these youngsters to get involved?
Well, the girls tell me about, every once in a while I run into another nurse who says, oh, you're the one that made me, you know, like Dr. Lux, your office nurse from Green Cove. I didn't realize that. She said, you know, you took care of my Aunt Minnie. And I said, yeah, I remember that. And she was in her house because they lived way up in Holland and she was having problems. And she said, that's what got me interested.
Is that right?
And this comes up periodically. First one thing, no doubt, they've been with them. And And one of those Weaver girls told me that too.
Several
Yes.
nurses.
There are 3 hall girls over here in nursing. Now, the oldest one came into the cadet nurse course, so that possibly doesn't count. She's older than that. But the younger ones, 2 younger ones. One of them's running a nursing home in Saltville, July, something like that.
Did you encounter a nurse? Is that what got you interested in nursing? You said you'd always wanted to be one.
No, I just wanted to be one.
How'd you know about nurses? The kind of life you were living?
I told you, I read a whole lot.
Okay, right.
That's probably.
You met them in
Oh,
books,
yeah.
right.
Your father didn't have a long illness or anything, did you?
Yeah, but I wanted to be a nurse before. I did.
Before your father, well, that's...
He was sick. Well, actually, he was bedfast for about 2 or 3 weeks, but then he'd been sick for about 6 months. before I died.
Clarice calls you Sister Sophie. Is that what everybody else calls
That's
you?
your deaconesses are called sister.
Sister. Can you think of any baby that you delivered in just really desperate conditions that has grown up to become a lawyer, a doctor, or a teacher, to go way beyond the situation he was born in?
Well, offhand I can't, but I'm thinking of a boy who was born in this little hut up on Upper Hilton, built against the hill, and it was about so high off the ground on one side. The little place was divided by a partition, and the bedroom had a little window in it about so big, closed, and the front door and a window in the front room. And when he was born, I remember emptying the water through the cracks in the floor. Now today he has a beautiful home. He works for the post office. That Brown Greer only sold, I don't know whether he sold that place or not, but has problems, and the doctor told him not to drive. He worked in Bristol and we were driving back and forth. And the doctor told him, if at all possible, to get rid of that long drive. Mm-hmm. So they're living in Bristol now. Whether they bought or whether he sold, I don't know, but that's a beautiful place. Mm-hmm. And I think about where he was born and where he is now.
Mm-hmm.
When you were delivering babies and going to see these sick people, and perhaps the thought entered your mind, or if they were in a big hospital, they might get better treatment. Did you get depressed about it, or was it a challenge that you accepted? And
I would say a challenge.
A challenge.
Because they're happier at home.
Good nursing pulls an awful lot of patients through, doesn't it?
Well, actually, some of these people that I've delivered since I retired, the first group came up from Florida, and they were out from Mesa, and they were already pregnant. They lost their insurance and their money to go to the hospital. So after they had their first baby at home, then the second one and the third one they want to have at home because they got along beautifully, and you're there and everybody's there, and you get a lot more personal attention and things like that. If everything goes all right, they seem to prefer it.
And now the end thing is to go to the Lamaze method, or these methods of home delivery, or if you prefer to have it in the office, in a hospital, still let the mama and papa do it, so to speak.
Well, actually, Ash County down here lets the father into the delivery room. Abington does not. I think Marion does. I don't know, it seems to me somebody said Abington would now. I'm not sure. They have a little problem down in Abington because their obstetricians won't allow anybody in to deliver babies except their own. So
Well,
that's
I think too, Sister Sophie, that
safety pin.
a lot of people felt more secure with Sister Sophie delivering a baby than they would go to a hospital if they didn't know people and whatever.
Well, that's very likely true, because they're more or less isolated up to a point, and this is the one and the only. Maybe I shouldn't say this, don't say it out loud. Benefit of the senior citizen program up here. There's plenty of food. They call it a nutrition program, not a lot of hooey, because there's plenty of food, but getting them out and associate with each other, that's the point. I've told them that, so they know how I feel about it.
You feel like we've never really had a shortage of food, don't you?
Might not up here.
No. years.
Golly, yeah.
We have.
They have cellars, and when they had that snowstorm, here's just an incident. When they had this terrific snowstorm in '60, they came up here with snowmobiles and whatnot and food. Well, there wasn't any really lack of food. They had, like one man said, well, it was little staples. But they had potatoes, they had canned goods, and if they wouldn't have starved, no way.
They wouldn't have starved if the snow hadn't gone off before till April, would they?
No,
I mean, if
not
they
really
really
starved.
they wouldn't have starved. They wouldn't have had their biscuits and
But this-
sugar and coffee.
Well, this
they-
is what I meant, though. The delivery trucks came through. We had a road there, and the delivery trucks came through on the one trick. They brought machinery in here you wouldn't believe, snow blowers, huge things, and weasels. Now, over in the, from Lansing up Horse Creek and up in that area, they couldn't get through. That's where they had the trouble, although I'm reasonably sure that none of them would go on very hungry if they had slow as they might have gone into potatoes and vegetables and meat, because most of them had canned their meat or whatnot.
Once you went off to Hickory, were you gone just the year and then were back in this area, or?
I went to Hickory signed up for a year. Well, I went off for a year. I decided to take a year off, mostly to wean people from up here. Really, I'm serious
Right.
about a lot of things. Because if in any group, even regardless of how hard you try, if they've had to depend on you for a number of years, then all of a sudden they're not going to take over. They keep right on depending. You can do it. But anyway, so I decided I'd get off for a year. Then I thought, well, heck, a year. I was out 2 months. I went out to California and had a ball, and I thought, golly, that's going to be a long, cold winter. I was driving down to Carolina to see my people, and I saw this sign, North Carolina Lutheran Homes. Maybe I can get some part-time. So I walked in there, talked to Mr. Kuhn, who is, I guess he's still the head of that. And he starts talking 40-hour week, and I just sat there and looked at him. I said, 40-hour week? I've never had in my life. So I signed up for this winter, but, I just stayed on.
Were you
Well,
glad to
this
get
is-
back to the mountains?
Oh, yeah.
Stayed on
Naturally.
for how long?
4 years, and I probably would have stayed on longer, except I developed asthma. It just about killed me, so I decided I'd get out of Hickory. It'd be better up here, and it was worse. It's controlled now. I'm on medication, but so far so good.
Well, coming back into the mountains and, from Hickory, the mountain people that I know, of course, as you know, I have relatives in this area, they all that I've talked to feel like you're part of their family. Do you feel that
Yeah.
way about the...
Yeah, otherwise I wouldn't be here.
I know
This
you're
is home.
at all of our family reunions. I just wondered if you felt that if you were part of our family.
They always call me, and well, come on in and so forth, so, okay.
Well, we wouldn't
But
feel like
actually-
we'd had a full meeting unless you were there,
It's, I don't know, you live in a place for 40 years and see children grow up. Actually, I came up every 3 or 4 free days that I had, for the simple reason I had insurance on this little cabin. And you have to stay in there and hold your insurance. And almost invariably, if there's something very serious went on, I was there. Somehow or another.
While you
When-
were in Hickory?
But no, yeah, I came up here on Sunday morning. Ken Powers came down and asked me to go up with him at 6 o'clock in the morning to tell his parents that his brother had gotten killed. This kind of thing. It was always somehow or another.
Yeah. He needed you to go with him.
Well, he didn't want to go up there
Yeah.
at 6 o'clock in the morning by himself to tell his father with a heart condition.
Yeah.
So,
That was Archie, wasn't it? Yeah, he was my cousin.
oh, that's right. I mean, this kind of thing, almost invariably, something like that happened, and I happened to be
The right time. So you knew you were
nobody-
coming back to the mountains
Yeah.
as soon as you felt.
Oh, yeah, this little place was for sale.
Well,
And I decided to get my own little place.
Of course
That
it's-
down there, I lived, it was to be, the way that deed down there was written on that cabin, it was to be used by the nurse or the church so long as they needed it. So then it goes back to the
of course,
people. that kind of thing. So
As
this
a,
is mine. This is mine.
as a deaconess in the Lutheran Church, of course, the Lutherans didn't have the big baptizings that the Baptists did here. So your church work was with your health service.
Yeah, part of it, except that about half the time, that's 32 years before I went to Hickory, 32 plus, we didn't have a pastor. So the whole thing almost devolved as for leadership on me and maybe a few of those people like Ken Kilby and like the Spencer girls and Evelyn Jones.
Walter
and the brothers.
Powers.
Walter Powers, definitely. It's sort of, and there's several people up in the White Top area who you could depend on. Otherwise, the leadership, almost. I mean, you start it and they go ahead and carry on. There were some Greers lived up in here who were very good. You know, Slick Greer, what's his name? Ezra Greer.
Ezra Green.
And his wife particularly, and his daughter. They were very, I mean, as far as, you had lots of support, but you have to, it's there to do, so you do it, whether you can or not.
So looking back, you feel like this was a great experience and what your life should have been, or you have no regrets coming to the mountains and,
No.
and dedicating your life to the
None
cause of
whatsoever.
nursing? And
None whatsoever. There's a lot of things I might have done differently if I had to do over again, but generally speaking, I'll say now I don't have any regrets as far as that goes. If the same thing had to be done over again under the same circumstances and I was able, I would. Only I'm glad they've got roads built up in here.
well, you know, the
I told
homes,
this woman up here, and the homes, they have facilities
Beautiful
now.
homes.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't recognize this country. You know, those of us who have grown up with it don't notice it. We know it if we stop to think. But people who came here to visit, say, 20 years ago and come now, yow! Hey! It's so different.
well, most of the homes, I guess, has, of course, running water. The older homes have put running water and bathroom facilities in. Plus these beautiful new homes that have been built up here.
Practically all of them. There are a few here and there who don't. And some of them, you know who they are. They just don't. Oh, we could
Don't
do
want
it.
them that way.
But this one woman says her husband doesn't want them. If we can do it, sure, we could do it, but they have a spigot in the house.
No bathroom.
Well, we can do it, but then he doesn't want to. And Mrs. Spencer's up there. Ola Spencer, she and her husband, their children wanted to put a bathroom in their house. No way. I don't know whether she would now, but except now she's by herself. I don't know what's going to do. She's not all that well, so how long she'll get to stay at home, I don't know. But they have a nice home. She has a spigot and running water, but outside facilities.
Well, I know you say you feel good about coming to this area, and I'm sure the people feel good that you did come. I, for one, do. And
Well, generally,
we're so glad you did.
People have been good. They say I've been good to them. They've been good to me, too.
well, you mentioned, too, we were talking about the way the homes were and so on and so forth, the conditions. Well, as the people had opportunities, some of these people that were living in, as you might say, shacks, then now are living in very comfortable homes.
Practically everybody.
Because and it wasn't the fact that the people didn't know or didn't want it. When the opportunity came along, they progressed with it.
Well, now, Sprague down here and Haynes down in West Jefferson, and what's that place? Robert Shaw in Independence, that shoe factory over in Tennessee, and you name it, Brunswick over in Marion.
Mr. Casual, I guess, too.
You name it, you can count them off. New industry that has come in, and everybody has a job. I don't know whether we have a few people who are not working now, who were out working with this gas conversion company around the country, and they're drawing unemployment. I don't know how soon they can get something to do. Oh yeah, and there's this, what's this, Mr., is that in Troutdale you're talking about, Mr.
Mr. Casual. Yeah, just
So
out
infected.
beyond, yeah, thereabouts crowded.
Yeah, but there's just any number of opportunities now, any very number of places for opportunity for employment.
Well, I don't know, you know, on
And you
the
have
tape.
Ash County Hospital, and you have, and it's a nice big hospital
The new
now too. But Ash County Hospital, really, and Dr. Dean Jones, Dean C. wasn't up here at the time when I was all active, but Dean Jones really God sent to this country. Freeman, they were wonderful. And Miller, the old man Miller, whatever.
But they didn't resent you delivering babies up in here.
No.
Of course, did they help you? Is that right?
And Doug Powers was down Kurtz. Doug Powers was down Lansing for a while too. And there was a Dr. Bunch who is no longer alive. He had an awful case of asthma and died in Arizona out here. He was down here at Sturgeon for a while. But most of these doctors were very good. Dr. Elliott out of Independence.
Moxley.
Moxley didn't do much up here. Elliott was the one who came out. Moxley was, what do you call him? Coroner.
Now, did you send, now back, I just want to ask this one question. When you sent the pregnant ladies to a doctor, they knew that you were going to do the delivery,
Yeah.
but they gave the prenatal checkup
Yeah, oh yeah.
and notified
That was
you.
understood.
Uh-huh.
And I would go talk to them and ask them about it. You know, we worked, they worked
Work
closely
together. Well,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
great.
Well, that's the only way you can do it, really.
That's great.
So, well, see, when I got my permit, I had to have a doctor. Dr. Dean was the one that signed the recommendation. You had to get a doctor's permit.
Nowadays, there's so much bureaucratic red tape if you try to cross county lines or a city and limits into the county. And you were working 2 states. Was this?
Well, I had a North Carolina midwife's permit too. What's the doctor's name down there? Woman doctor. We had to get that renewed every 2 years. I had it until I went to Hickory. Matter of fact, I had it after. They dropped it after I went down there. Didn't have it renewed, in other words. What was her name? I used to go down to the health department. They did the blood tests and all the rest of it when you had it. Virginia just sends the notice into the state office and you get it.
Right.
But we had to get a blood test and a checkup to get it renewed in Ash. I delivered a set of preemie twins in Ash County. On the 13th of December, what was the time of the year? I don't know, about 18 years ago. I think those girls are 18 years old now. I was asking about them. They said they're married and get along all right. 4 pounds. Awfully cold night.
It always happened on a cold night, didn't it? Well, Sister Sophie, is there anything out? Would you like to sum up your whole experience in one? Well, it'd take about a 3 more hour session when.
What shall I say? A full and satisfying life, for which I have no regrets.
Well, that's great.
That's all I got to say.
Well, we
If I
thank you.
have been any benefit to anybody, that's all to the good. And if I haven't, I'm sorry.
I will ask you this one question. Of course, you were never married. No, were there any regrets or romances that you wanted to mention?
Not that I will mention.
Very good.
No regrets.
No regrets. Okay, that's sufficient. That's sufficient. Thank you.